How's it going?
There you are. Christopher Struck. At last we connect.
Hey Jay, how's it going?
Pretty good. If I'm on the line, you know the drill. You're on the air.
Sounds great.
As
We'll get into it.
as if our listeners aren't aware already, your book is doing great. It's all over the place, and that's probably why I couldn't get a hold of you until now. Tell us about the book. Tell us what's going on with your new book. Now that it's published, now that it's out, what's going on?
So just working on setting up events, getting the word out there some more. The word's been pretty good generally, and I think the top seller for my publisher last month. So that's really good news.
Excellent.
I mean, it's the release month, but at the same time, I think there's a lot more potential for growth, and I think that the traction's been there. And also, it's extended beyond me as well too now. So it's exciting to see kind of like some of the little things like it appear in bookstores and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great.
Come on the radar. So hopefully it appears in more bookstores. Hopefully it starts appearing in New York bookstores because it's a huge market and it's where most of the people who know of me like live. So it'd be nice to see that start to happen. But yeah, I mean it's a start and it's good. And like I've said before, I got 2 more books under contract with the same publisher. So I think as long as there's as long as there are some sales and it continues to grow and be persistent, that there's going to be, good news in the future when it comes to more releases.
Well, some sales is an understatement. If you're number one amongst that publisher and you're in bookstores, you're on Amazon, as far as I know, also with it.
Yeah, I'm on Amazon. I don't know how Amazon's doing in terms of like the relationship. So I think Amazon's been a major player for the last decade and a little bit in the book market, but there's kind of been a little bit of a like rebellion against it when it comes to like other corporate interests. Barnes & Noble's made a pretty strong play. So most of my sales when I first was selling this book, when I was self-published before it got picked up by a publisher, those were through Amazon, so I could pretty easily track how like things went. But now that it's through a publisher and goes through distributors and goes to like individual and independent bookstores and like other like more corporate chains like Kinokuniya and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bookstore I know that I'm in, Kinokuniya.
Where is that bookstore?
What's up?
Where is the bookstore?
Where is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's national. I think it's actually based in Japan, but the bookstores that I'm in are in Tennessee, and there's also a New York location. I know the book was ordered through there, so.
Well, this is news to me. You're national and international with this book. That is absolutely marvelous.
Well, it'd be nice if it was actually in Japan, but especially since one of my books is set in Japan, so that would be like a really good synergy. It's like, oh, the Japanese people liked Chris's first book, and guess what? He's got another one that's kind of catering to them. Well, I mean, that'd be really cool. I think that's important to like always make sure that you have like a target market or like at least are aware of like who would buy your book and who's interested in you as an author. But at the same time, I can't say that it's being sold in Japan. I have no idea. I just know that a Japanese bookstore in the United States picked it up for sale. So hopefully it continues, like I said, continues to build because like that's the kind of like good news that's exciting. And then also, like I said, something like that when it has like a pretty obvious synergy, it's like Japanese readers maybe will pick up, might be looking at this book, but then might be more interested in the next book because it's set in Japan or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're a smart man. Not only are you a very talented writer, but you understand the marketing of it. A lot of artists have this amazing product, but they don't know what to do with it once it's done. You obviously have a handle on things, which is excellent.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of a learning experience, right? Like especially before getting picked up by a publisher, kind of seeing what did work, and like also. The online aspect being like such a prevalent factor, and like also like pretty mind-numbing at times in terms of like how much you can do and how little like come out of it. Oh, sure. But like doing all those little things helps because you kind of learn something like that's not going to get as much interest. But like if one of your posts gets 0 likes, but then one of your posts gets 100, then you're like, well, you really start emphasizing the stuff that gets hundreds.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Facebook is like the subliminal marketing course for everyone these days.
Yeah.
So tell our readers what the book's about. Give us the elevator story of the book, and its name, for that matter.
Yeah, Kennig and Gold.
Kennig and Gold. Yes. Go on.
Kennig and Gold. Yeah. So the biggest factor is the characters, and that's what the book's named after. It's Daniel Kennig and Cynthia Gold, and sorry, 1 second. I swallowed something funny. I guess that's the miracle of the on-air aspects. All right, so Daniel Kennig is a singer in New York. He wants to be the greatest that's ever lived. And then one day at a cafe, he meets Cynthia Gold, and that dream is set aside. He puts it on hold, gambles his future on making the relationship with Cynthia Gold work. So that's pretty much the beginning of the story, and like kind of what the driving factor of his character is. Cynthia Gold is a little bit more complicated because she is trying to change her situation, and she kind of wants a little bit more freedom in her life, especially since her life's been pretty much controlled for her by the money of her family and also her mother in particular, because her mother controls that money.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Daniel, she sees like her own choice, her own freedom, and she really admires kind of the way that he's like, the way he acts in his day-to-day life, and she wants to be kind of that free as well. And especially since this is set in 1948, when there aren't a lot of advantages for women in terms of decision making and power and like empowerment. So those are the type of things that she deals with, and so she has to make a lot more like, I don't know, strategic choices in terms of like how she lives her life to make sure that she can kind of solve the problems that she deals with. And so that makes her character a little bit more nuanced in terms of like why she decides to do one thing or another thing. Whereas Daniel's a little bit more like, I want something, I'm going to go get it type of thing.
Very interesting. So we have a whole bunch of combinations here. Like I said, you understand so many facets of things, and it's the same thing here. This is set in the jazz age. Then this is the 40s into the 50s. So we have. I'm sorry.
Oh, so it's 1948. So like around the time that Guys and Dolls was coming out.
Oh, brilliant. So you have that Damon Runyon feel. You have that jazz age feel. We have a little Romeo and Juliet in here with the poor singer and the wealthy society dame. And we even have a little F. Scott Fitzgerald here. I get a sense of the Great Gatsby permeating your book as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people compare it to that, and I think that the biggest factor in that is that there's an aspect of wealth and also pining for it. Like a lot of Gatsby is focused specifically on Gatsby because he has a lot of money, but then a lot of the other characters, in comparison, are usually drawn as like not having as much or wanting more of what Gatsby has. And in this case, Daniel is very much like the Nick character, where he's like, I want to be the American that has a lot of money, but I see that it's hard to do that, and it's hard to kind of just jump from poor to rich. Whereas Cynthia has money, she is rich, she's already there, and she's kind of the Gatsby figure in the story a little bit more. But as the story advances, Daniel becomes more and more of that flamboyant type of character who grabs attention and exudes the wealth that he wants and possesses, and that kind of drives a little bit of the relationship factor between Daniel and Cynthia in terms of like relationship power or types of actions they're going to be doing, or where one's going to go and which one's going to follow, and I think that kind of complicates the relationship a little bit as well as kind of drives the ending of the story.
It's interesting how you managed to create two characters that are quite exemplifying of the time. Cole Porter wrote so many characters like your Gold character, the wealthy dame with a strong backbone, if you will. So we're seeing the modern woman emerging from the classic stereotype, and we're also seeing that with Kennig. Here's this guy who could have everything. He's looking to be a singer in New York. He's at the crossroads of everything, and what does he choose? Love. So you're showing us the sensitive guy and the powerful woman. Really clever, really clever. This also sounds very cinematic.
I worked really hard on it. A lot of people have also mentioned the cinema aspect, so I did sign a film deal. That was a really good segue on your part. I don't know if I told you about the.
No, you did not. Oh, I was just thinking out loud. Oh my gosh, you signed a film deal with this?
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily. It's not landed a studio yet. It's a deal to get a studio. So we'll see what happens with it. But there's a group that's interested in putting together pitch books and getting together a trailer and pitching it to studio to see kind of where it goes and how big it can be.
Oh my
that happened
gosh!
A couple weeks ago. So.
A couple weeks ago. Oh, thanks for telling me, pal. Wow.
I'm sorry. It was slipped my mind.
Oh, it slipped your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether he's calm on drugs or whatever. If someone told me, hey, Jay, you're going to sign a film deal, well, it's speculative, but you're going to sign a film deal, I would be dancing up and down the streets. And you're going, oh, sorry, slipped my mind, babe.
It's still a lot of work, and it's not like it's done. I mean, it's kind of like it's stage one, it's step one. It's definitely really exciting. You get a lot of interest in the book, but at the same time, like, I still have to do the day job until it starts selling a lot more copies, and I still have to do the hard work and post on the internet and plan out things and strategically allocate time until it starts to make inroads. And then also, you never know if it's going to get picked up by a studio or not. So, like, I mean, La La Land was being sold for like 11 or 12 years before it made it to a production studio that was going to actually put it on. And so right now I've got...
And I hear it did pretty well in the end, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of comparison. I mean, that's a lot of people say it looks like that, or there's a couple of 1980s films that were also really similar. I can't remember the names, so I can look them up again. But, like, there's a pattern of success with stories like this, especially with like young singers and things like that. Even the Moulin Rouge, which came out, has got kind of a similar storyline or vibe. Very different, like, actual events inside the story, but at the same time, there's clear success with this whole artist wealth dichotomy when it comes to fiction and literature. And so I think that it's just a matter of time. It's waiting, it's patience, and it's hard work. And at the same time, I don't think I think if I relax or rest or whatever, it might not be where it needs to be at the end of the day. And so I think it's a little bit just like
there's no such thing as relaxing. That's for sure. But you have taken a major step here. So encapsulate. You wrote this amazing book. It was online for a while. It got great notice. It was picked up by a publisher. So now you're in bookstores. Now you're all over the place with that. And now you have signed the first step, the speculative deal for a film version of this. This is utterly incredible. If I think marketing, you're talking a really excellent time, because now is when you see a lot of crossovers, where you see a lot of pop singers in films, even in film versions of stage plays. I would say Cats, but I think everyone's going to get really upset. But I could see the marketability of your piece. So this is phenomenal, man. Have you started the other books? You said you had a contract for 2 more books. Have you started the others?
So those ones are the ones we talked about last call, which were done. And I'm really excited. Yeah, no, I hit the ground running. I didn't like let up at all. So after writing Kennig and Gold, there were good sales. It would have, if it was a nonfiction book, it would have gotten picked up by Penguin or something like that. Wasn't nonfiction, it was fiction, so there's a little bit of different barometer for sales there. So coming off of writing that, I wrote my next book in the summer of 2017, and then I wrote the follow-up to that in the summer of 2018. So I guess, the logical thing would be that I'd write another book in the summer of 2019. I had not started another book yet. I've got one in my mind, but that's that's another battle for the recent, or the hopefully soon recent future.
Right.
I don't know. The coming days. I'm hoping to start it soon, but it's one of those things where it's like, do you really have the idea down? Do you have enough research? Do you have characters you're going to love in the end? Mm-hmm. So there's some time to wait for that. But the other ones, they're done. I think they're good. My publisher thought they were good enough to sign contracts to sell them. So hopefully that kind of takes shape in the next few months.
This is absolutely phenomenal. You could take your time with the fourth book. Get the film version of this one and the other two on the market. Wowee. Now your alter ego is a reviewer also. We see your names in places like Cabaret Scenes and things like that as a reviewer.
Yep. Yeah, it's fun, and it also really helps with I think legitimizing Kennig and Gold in terms of like the background research, especially since I've been watching singers perform in New York now for about 2.5 years, and I think I just eclipsed like 250 shows this past month, this month. So that was a busy time period, but it was a really good learning experience, and I think that I would definitely not call myself tone deaf anymore.
Oh, there you go.
But at the same time, I think at this point I can tell if somebody's in the right key or something.
I'm sure.
It's like something I was in a very different place when I started out. I didn't know who people like Jerome Robbins or even Stephen Sondheim were, or any of that stuff. I just actually, kind of a funny story is I saw Adam Pascal this week, a couple nights ago actually, and he was in Ren as Roger, the first Roger. Obviously a big name. Just kind of giving context for whoever ends up watching this, and it's kind of like me 3 days ago when I didn't know who Adam Pascal was. But once I heard his story, he kind of came into theater very similar to how I came into theater. He was a rocker for a really long time, and that's how he got the role as a rocker in a show.
Right.
Big surprise, but
sure.
But me, I loved rock, I loved music, but a different type of music than musical theater music. I'd seen a couple of musicals, didn't really know kind of what I thought about it. Knew that my family was really interested in it. My aunt and my grandma always go to musicals and things like that, and they can't stop bragging about things like the Jersey Boys. But I never really understood it, but had the opportunity to start reviewing plays and musicals a couple of years, like 2.5 years ago now, and really fell in love with the different aspects of the play, and like how you can write a story that kind of tells something political or relevant, or not political and not relevant, and also like really impacts the people on stage in their lives, and kind of how they approach not only their lives but how they develop as a person. So you're going to kind of see where it goes from there. And so then that led to reviewing for Cabaret Scenes, where I started out of the duplex, reviewed 20 to 30 shows in a month a couple times, and then was able to pretty much transition from that into reviewing at 54 Below, Birdland, and Green Room 42 pretty consistently. Those are probably the top 3 I go to. And as the shows have gotten better at Green Room 42, I've been there even more. So it's Green Room 42. That's where I saw Adam Pascal, and then I'm at 54 Below probably, on average I would say like 2 or 3 times a month, and then the other one's Birdland. That kind of varies. Sometimes I'm there like once a week, and sometimes I'm there like once in the month or something like that. But those are probably the 3 main ones I go to, and they always have good stuff on the schedule. It's just a matter of like, it being something that a day that I have free, and also something I'm interested in seeing.
I know you're a power player at the Duplex. I remember when I first met you, there was a show. I had a show at the Duplex, and you came to review it. And I had no
Yeah.
idea who you were. And I remember speaking to Thomas Honig over at the Duplex. I said, "What does he look like? What does Chris Struck look like?" And just so I can greet you at the door. And Thomas had about 80 million things going on. So me yammering in his ear was the least he needed. And I just remember he stepped in front of me at one point, went right over to you and said, "Mr. Struck, your table is ready. Would you like a drink?" And just the tone in his voice, I was like, "Oh, this guy's a power player here." Okay. So yeah, you're making an impact in the cabaret world too.
Well, I mean, thanks for that. I think the Duplex is a really good launching point for a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people there that have gone on to do some pretty cool things.
Yeah.
And so I think, the fact that the Duplex hasn't had a steady reviewer there for years. A lot of the shows that I've seen, and I think in terms of power player, I think it's just that I had a pretty good relationship, especially with the Duplex. They've been really great to me, and I try to be really great to them as well. And I think that's really where it is. It's a relationship thing. They're really great people, and they put on a lot of really great shows. And so in the last, I don't know, I think more recently I've gone there less because it's not as convenient as it used to be. That's mostly just because my work has gotten a little bit busier.
Sure. Sure.
So, like I said, show the day job.
Mm-hmm.
But you do see a lot of really great stuff there, and I've gotten the pleasure of seeing a lot of really great stuff there. And those people have gone on to perform at 54 Below, and a couple of people at Birdland Jazz Club. Actually, just a lot of people at 54 Below. And I think that's kind of like what's exciting about it is that I think the fact that they've gotten somebody who's looked at their work and written something appreciative of it and been able to kind of use that and leverage that for their own, publicity material. And,
of course.
And say this is what somebody said about me. These are the aspects of my show that I can bring to the table, and then, pitch that to 54 Below and see kind of like where it goes from there. And I don't actually know how much they use my material or not use my material, but at the same time, I know that a lot of people I've seen there have gone and do some pretty cool things, and I've seen a lot of them in shows at other places too. And I think that's what's really cool. It's a really underrated venue, and some of the shows that I've seen there, I don't know if I already mentioned this on this call, but it would be the first time in 8 or 9 years that somebody's seen it. Nobody's reviewed it, and it's been performed annually since 2000 whatever. And it's wow, that's really cool. You've been doing this for what? How long? 12 years? Oh shit, that's interesting. I mean, that's what's interesting about it is that a lot of people didn't really get a lot of attention, and I think that's kind of been my role, is to kind of give them a little bit of attention. And I think it works out for everybody. Hopefully it helps them out. That's just the goal.
I think people are very afraid of reviewers because there was a long stretch where there was savage reviews done. It seemed to be almost the norm to be extra nasty to someone or extra name droppy just to ingratiate yourself and not the reviewer. So you're one of the good ones from the good old days. It's funny that you're right about the 40s because you're from the good old days where you come to endorse, to critique, and just to help, to support different performers. I don't think people realize the profitability, the value of someone like you who comes down and shares information on them. So I think it's great that you do it. I've always been a fan of get the word out, make sure people know you're there, take those comments and take them further. So I'm so glad you think along the same lines.
Well, I mean, I think it's been the biggest part of the whole thing is no matter, if I say something super nasty, it doesn't give me anything. It doesn't get them anything either. It's just
exactly
saying something nasty to someone. And I think that especially with the fact that the internet does that enough these days.
Oh yeah.
Every other day you hear something about some person. I mean, I remember when I spent any time in the comment section on Yahoo or the forums. for different like card games or cars, or even things like as innocuous as men's socks or something.
Yep.
You get people who are like vicious, and like I remember reading this lady's comment, and like totally unexpected, and it might have even been like a fake picture. You never know what it is, but like you would look at the person in the picture and think like that seems like someone in real life that I would think was really reasonable and had like every reason to be supportive of like pretty much anybody. And she was saying, kill all the Democrats. Why don't we, like, they're so stupid, kill all the Democrats. I'm like, in the comment section, this was back in like 2009. So like we're like really, really back there. But I'm like, because like now I think attention's a little bit more paid to those types of things. But
yep.
But people do say some pretty nasty things, and I think they think that they're kind of protected. And then you, like, more these days, you hear the stories of, some principal at a school, he said something negative online, and now he's fired or something like that. So I think these days people pay a lot more attention to things like that. But, I think that's kind of the era that I grew up in, just like seeing people like say stuff like that and be like, I don't want to be one of those people. I mean, I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to like look back and like look at a post I posted or something and be like, well, that's embarrassing now. It would have been embarrassing then to say something weird too. So, I mean, I hope that, I don't think that type of like patience with social media that someone like me has kind of been a little bit more like a stronger advocate of means that I get like the biggest following or anything like that. But I think that at the same time, I think it's important, and I hope that I think things are coming around my way at this point. So I'm hoping that means that people will look at my pages and be like, well, he's not a nasty person. Like, he says nice things to people. So,
for sure. Well, that's quite obvious. That's quite obvious. I remember how you were at the Public Theater with me when we saw Wee McDonald, and you were so gracious to her and so nice. And I remember standing aside thinking, this guy's a reviewer and he's being so friendly. Wait a minute, what am I missing here? It's a pleasure when I see supportive, interested people going to see these shows, because I think you're right. I think we've reached that point where we've had enough of nasty. Where on all levels people are starting with nasty and seeing where they go. So I think we're finally having enough of that. So hopefully the pendulum will swing in the other direction, and things will become supportive again.
I mean, I hope so. Maybe it's always going to be my niche, but I hope that I'm also like a first mover in the like being nice movement. But at the same time, who knows? You never know where it goes with that stuff. I mean, in the end, primarily I'm a novelist, and the best thing about being a novelist is that like the more successful I get, the less I need to talk to people. So, like that's kind of where I want to go with that. Like I love reviewing, and my goal when I started was to do like 500 reviews. So I'm about halfway there.
There you go.
Which is surprising because it's going a lot faster than I expected. But at the same time, my goal is to get to the point where I can just sit there and be like, this is a book I wrote, and hopefully people read it. And like a good example is Stephen King. He's still chasing a lot of his early career success in some ways, but at the same time, last year, 2 of his books were rated the top books on Goodreads. He published 2 books, and they both were like widely heralded for being just really, really good, well-written books. So,
well, you are definitely. I'm sorry.
Oh, you first.
I was just going to say, you are definitely on the road to that.
Cool.
In 1 year, it hit the publisher, and now before it's even cold on the shelves, you're talking film. So I definitely see how your future trajectory is going to move very quickly with this.
I mean, you got to do that type of stuff, though. At the same time, like, I mean, if it doesn't get picked up for film, I think people think, oh, it's maybe not as good a story. Like, they're even putting the Glass House in movie version. I thought, it was an all right book, but at the same time, like, I think the movie kind of exposes a lot of the things in the book that are a little like fantastical. And as much as you want to call it a real memoir or a fake memoir or whatever it is that people like, that you could say or couldn't say, it's like, you know, I think a lot of the imagination there with the story helps, like as a reader, helps create kind of some believability to it, whereas in like actually seeing someone do something that they say in the book, like there's a part where they're saying that, you know, she doesn't have pants that don't have holes, so she draws like a marker on her skin to hide the fact that there are holes in her pants. And I just don't know how they're going to do that in film, because one, I don't think that part of the book is incredibly realistic, and I've been assured that it is in fact something people do, but at the same time, like I've never seen it, or maybe never noticed it, and so like now I'm like, if you put that in the movie, you know, I guess we'll see if it actually looks realistic.
I have never seen that for pants, but I've seen that for socks. I have seen it in reality, and I've seen it on film and even in writing, where they talk about if a man has a hole in his sock and he doesn't have the time to fix it, or he doesn't have another pair of socks or whatever, you mark in where your skin is, so it covers it. I've never seen it with pants, so that's going to be a fascinating image.
I mean, I guess people do it. I've been assured, like I said, that people do it. So anyway, you got more time for me? It's been about a half an hour, but
it sounds like you have to. It sounds like you have to go also. So we might as well wrap up here and just say congratulations. Thank you so much. You still need 250 reviews? Okay, I think I'm going to help you with that. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, if you got shows, I've seen a lot of good ones that you put on or helped put on or been associated with. So
I got one at the Broadway Comedy Club. I got one at 54 Below. I got plenty for you to look at. But the more important thing is, I just want to find out more and more about your book. I'm going to grab you in the next couple of days and find out about that movie deal. And let's just tell the world how brilliant this book is, how brilliant you are. And just like Stephen King, you're just going to be the name that people remember in terms of literary work.
Well, it's been a lot of hard work so far, so hopefully it pays off, and we'll see how it goes. Just keep
terrific
time. And,
terrific.
Let me know what you need, and I'll be there. You
betcha. And you're so calm. Oh my God, maybe that's part of the success. Maybe I have to learn that.
I mean, I think it's a balance. You know, I think it's looking at things with a little bit of you could say cynicism, but it's also I think I'm optimistic. You know, that's why I sign these deals. That's why I go to these shows. I expect like good things, but I also am like, you know, aware that like, you know, I've written a lot of books at this point, and I finally got a publishing deal, but it was a lot of hard work. I had to go to conferences. I had to do a lot of legwork. I met a lot of editors. I met a lot of agents. I met a lot of publishers, and like the overarching thing is that a lot of the work has come down to me. A lot of the little things come down to me. I've had to, you know, be a part of every copy edit. I've had to be a part of every substance edit. You know, I've had to do the research from writers' references to Chicago MLA to different types of like, you know, quotation styles or like how do you use apostrophes to how do you use, you know, dialogue quotations, and it's just been it's a lot of work, and it's, you know, a lot of it it's something that pays off in the long run, and I think it's not necessarily appreciated, and I think that a lot of people don't necessarily look at that, and also I think that that's kind of the part about being calm is I think that it's like, yeah, I signed this deal, but that doesn't mean, you know, things are over. That means things have just started, and then that means there's going to be a lot of work, and then, you know, once we finally have like, you know, feet on like footprints on the Hollywood Walk of Fame or something like that, then maybe we'll relax. But even then, like, you know,
even then you got to keep yourself there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you have to keep doing the things that got you there. You got to be a good person. You got to keep writing books. You have to keep, you know, being supportive of other people and their development, and then, you know, just keep doing it. Keep doing it, all the work.
And that's what you're doing.
Anyway.
Chris, thank you very much. Really appreciate chatting with you. I will let our readers know exactly. Readers, they're going to be your readers. They're my listeners. Exactly where they can get your book. And here's to the future.
Thanks, Jay.
I will talk to you soon. Ciao.